All right, this is 6.5. These are our 4 do now problems. Go ahead and pause the video, copy them down, and try them now. Okay, let's go over them together. So if we have 20%, that's the same as 20 over 100, or 20 hundredths, which would be represented by a 0.2. And so of tells us to multiply. 8 times 2 is 16. Move the decimal one spot, and the answer would be 16. So remember, a percentage is always a number out of 100, and we can easily make 50 into 100 by multiplying by 2. Whatever do we do to the bottom, we need to do to the top. So 30 times 2 would be 60. 60 over 100 is equal to 60%. And then here we're just multiplying fractions. I don't see anything I can simplify first. So we multiply our numerators and multiply our denominators. 3/24. And then for this one, we're going to divide, and we're using a fraction. So the easiest thing to do when you have a whole number is to make it into a fraction. And then remember our little rhyme, dividing fractions as easy as pie. Flip the second and multiply, or keep it, change it, flip it. So we flip the second one. We're taking the reciprocal here. Then we just go ahead and multiply. We get 24 over 1, which is equal to 24. Okay, hopefully you did all right on those. All right, this lesson I feel like can be a little bit difficult for kids because it's something new. We are using a formula. I want you to pause your video right now and write down these 3 formulas where distance is D, rate is R, and rate means the speed, and time is T. And these are the formulas that you need to write down right here. D equals RT, R times T. R equals distance divided by time, and time equals distance divided by rate. So you need to have those so you can do your activity today. So go ahead and write those down. And this is the one I will explain to you how we do this. So here is our example problem. It says a car traveled 130 miles in 2 hours. How fast did it travel? So first we have to ask ourselves, which of these up here, which of these represents fast? How fast? How fast would be our speed? Speed is the rate. So we need to use this formula here to find the speed or the rate if they want to know how fast. So we're going to do R equals D divided by T. So that is going to be the formula we use. Rate equals distance divided by time. So it says, then we have to look for our distance and our time. So we can put those into our equation. A car traveled 130 miles. So that is the distance. How far a car travels is the distance. So you're going to put that 130 in for the distance. And then the time is going to be the 2 hours. So you divide it by the time, which will look like this, 130 divided by 2 hours. Two fits in there, 6. 2 fits in there, 5. So we get 65 miles per hour. So another way to look at that would have been to write it as 130 miles divided by 2 hours. And then when you do your dividing, your answer goes on the top, 65 miles. And you keep these labels because we didn't cancel them, per hour. 65 miles per hour. So 30 divided by 2, that's 30 divided by 2 hours. We can do the division. 130 divided by 2 is 65 miles per hour. All right, let's look at another one. If you already want to try it, go ahead. If you don't, I would personally write this down. Oh, stuck out my pant leg. Sorry. I would personally write this one down so that you have it in your notes. It says a subway car travels at a rate of 32 feet per second. How far does it travel in 16 seconds? So it's asking how far it travels. How far would be a distance? It's not a rate, it's not how fast, it's not the time, it's a distance. How far is a distance? So you look up your distance formula that you just took notes on, and it was distance equals the rate times the time. So we have to take the rate. The rate is the speed. So a subway car travels at a rate, it tells you at a rate of 32 feet. And then we know per is, make a fraction line, per 1 second, right? We've learned that when we did our ratios. So 32 feet per second. So you put the seconds on the bottom. And how far does it travel in 16 seconds? So we need to multiply times 16 seconds. And we want a distance, so we're gonna want feet at the end. So we're gonna put that 16 over 1. That's gonna help us simplify out the seconds. So you don't have that. We're just gonna have our numerators multiplied together and our denominator. So 1 times 1 is 1, so we don't need a denominator on this one. We're gonna do 32 times 16. Gives us 512. When I add this all together, I get 512, and I'm left with feet. And I have to check with myself, does that represent right here a distance? And yes, it does. 512 feet is a distance. So we are just plugging those numbers in. Here we plug in the rate. Here we plug in the time. We simplify, and then you multiply. So this looks a lot like conversions. All right, let's try a couple more. Here's one you could write down. Pause and write this one down. If you can do it on your own, I'd like you to try it. If you don't know what to do, go ahead and read it and decide which of those formulas you need to use, and at least try to pick out which formula before we start. Okay. How long will it take a seal swimming at a speed of 8 miles per hour to travel 52 miles? So how long will it take? So in this one, it's asking for a time. It wants a time that it's going to take. So I need that first formula right here. We want to do time. That's the answer, what we want for our answer. So we're going to do time equals distance divided by rate. So time equals distance divided by rate. So first we have to find the distance, and then we're going to divide it by the rate. So we want to know, it's asking the speed is going to be 8 miles per hour. That's the rate. The time was 52 miles. So we're going to put that over 1. That's our distance, right? 52 miles is a distance. I might have said that wrong. 52 miles is our distance divided by our rate, which is 8 miles per hour. So I want to have my time be in hours. So I'm going to put 8 miles per 1 hour, and I'm going to put the hour on the top. And you have the ability to do that, to flip this around, because it's 8 miles per hour. So you can flip it either way that you need it. And we need an answer that's going to be in hours at the end, because it's asking for a time. So we want to simplify out our miles. So one has to be on the bottom and one has to be on the top. And then we're going to do 52 divided by 8. So I'm going to actually do that on my calculator right now. Feel free to use your calculator. Make it a little bit faster. 52 divided by 8 equals 6.5, 6.5. So it's going to take 6.5 hours to travel that distance. And the hours is on top. Our label here is on top, so we have hours on the bottom. And you just take the 52 that's on the top and divide it by the 8 on the bottom to get your answer. All right, try this one on your own. Pick which formula you use. It's asking for a distance. You're going to need the distance formula and then plug in the numbers and see if you can figure out the answer. Okay, distance equals rate times time. Okay, so we're going to do our rate. That's how the speed, 35 miles per hour. And I want miles because the distance needs to be, so I look to see, remember what's going to be in my answer. Answer is going to be in miles, so I need miles on the top here. 35 miles per 1 hour for 2.5 hours. And I want to cancel my hours, so I'm going to put the 2.5 on the top here. Okay, I cancel my hours. I'm left just with the miles. That's what I want to be left with at the end. And I'm going to multiply 35 times 2.5. And do that on my calculator. Answer would be 87.5 miles. So 87.5 miles is how far the dragonfly would travel after 2.5 hours. Okay, so I'm going to have you try these today. I know they're a little tough. We'll keep practicing them up until the test. Okay, so good luck.